shortly after that medication, I started that medication. Emmanuel did whatever magic he does with his connections, and he got me on Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which was my first like actual gig. Hi, my name is Scott Gessler. I am a creature concept artist in the film world, and you're watching the Chronicles of Podcast.
Ladies and gents, ladies and thems, this week we are back with a brand new interview. And this week we're talking monsters, creatures, and art. This week's guest is an artist whose work makes you say, I really hope that thing doesn't exist. And like in the best way possible, of course. He's a concept artist who's worked on projects like Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Percy Jackson's The Olympians, and Wicked. Join us as we talk monsters, movies, creativity, and so much more. Everyone put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of Scott Gessler.
Oh,
Boom.
beautiful.
Thank you, man. What a killer introduction.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Man.
I love it.
Scott, before we dive into the cruxy, deliciousy part, I know your day's only just begun, so I'll say, how was Christmas and New Year for you?
Good. Relatively uneventful, which is the way I like it.
Nice.
It was good. It was all over in the blink of an eye. So I feel like the holiday season always goes by like that these days, and I wish it was longer. But
The build-up's always the longest bit. You always
Yeah.
go, oh, it's Christmas, so we better, oh, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. And then you sit down and go, great, what do you mean I'm back to work? Where's that gone?
I feel like the older I get, when Halloween hits, as soon as it's Halloween, I'm like, cool. So New Year's is tomorrow. 'Cause it's just like
A blur.
That's the mindset. Yeah.
It's an
But
absolute...
it was-
You do Halloween way better than we do. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I'd love to go
Yeah.
to America for Halloween. I imagine it's amazing over there because it's pretty shit here, to be honest.
Is it? You guys don't? It's not a big one for you guys?
Well, it is, but as Brits, I think we're just a lazy nation. So we're just like, put a bin bag on, get a couple of sweets in a bowl. Here you go. Right, see you later.
Yeah, you get the odd house that gets involved, and then most of them are just like, if you knock on my door, I'm going to throw something at you. Go away.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Not interested, thank you. Scott, how we like to start these things is take it all the way back to childhood. Young Master Gessler, what did you want to be when you were growing up? Has it always been art for you, or was it something completely different, like race car driver? I don't know.
So I guess it's kind of it's half and half. I was always an artist. I was always drawing. I mean, when I was a little kid, my parents loved to tell this story. Like the first time they handed me a set of crayons, I like picked it up and held them like this. You know, I wasn't like a kid that just grabbed it.
Yeah.
Like so it was, I don't know. I just like I was drawing from like as old as it is safe to give a kid a crayon, and I always liked it. Always knew what I wanted to do in that regard. But if you asked like elementary school, like second, third grade Scott, I would have told you I wanted to be an archaeologist. And
Interesting.
the only reason I said that is because I had no idea what an archaeologist did other than they were in Jurassic Park and I liked dinosaurs. So I was a dinosaur kid. Bed sheets were dinosaurs, pajamas were dinosaurs, dinosaur toys everywhere. If there was a Godzilla movie out, I had all the merch for it. If there were, and I think that's kind of where the dinosaur thing slowly turned into kind of more like creaturey, expanding into more like sci-fi stuff. And so, if there were movies with dragons or anything that resembled a dragon or a dinosaur or alien movies that had any resemblance to a dinosaur or anything, I was like all into it. So I guess my career kind of ended up with me meshing those two things together. Was I got my art that I was always I don't know, just good at from a young age and liked and enjoyed. And I got to kind of marry my interest with, these creatures and animals and stuff that I was always really obsessed with. Um, but yeah, archaeologist and artist was little Scott's ambitions.
Amazing. I do wonder how many kids saw Jurassic Park and went, that is what I want to do. I want to dig up bones and I want an old man to come offer me to go to a park somewhere. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was. And obviously, the older I got and realized how many, papers you need to write and books you need to read to become an archaeologist, that started to look like less and less of the direction I wanted to go in. And the more I grew and saw the potentials of art beyond just like um, like classic paintings and, oil paintings and still life studies of, apples and stuff. That was never like, that really never really grabbed me. But once I got old enough and kind of started seeing all these different implementations of art, really in like the entertainment world. And, I think one of the biggest things that I remember that kind of really piqued my interest in that was some of the art of books for the making of the Star Wars movies. I grew up with the episode one, two, and three, so those were kind of the art that I was looking at for those newer ones. But yeah, once I kind of saw like, oh, like all of these really cool monsters and aliens and characters, they all started with some artist drawing and trying to figure out what they looked like. And I think that's what really kind of sucked me back into more into that art direction.
I was going to say, like, how did you go from, oh, I like doodling with, it wasn't even this, was it? It was this. And I like doodling to like, I want to do this for a living. Because there's got to be that moment where, because every kid likes to draw, like, there's got to be that moment where it kicks in.
Yeah, yeah. I really do think it was kind of this like longer exposure to just more movies and kind of watching more like behind the scenes stuff and what went into, the production of these things. Um, but I guess I really would say like if I had to pick a moment, it was probably watching Jurassic Park and then watching the episode one, Star Wars episode one, the one with Darth Maul and all that. I shortly after that came out, I was gifted for Christmas or something. I got a making of that episode book, like official art book, and going through that and seeing all the stuff. I think that was kind of really what like set me in and was like, oh, okay, this like there's things to do in this world that I could plug myself into. It was probably that book if I had to blame it on something.
That means something.
Were your parents particularly artistic at all?
Um, I guess the short answer is no. My dad is like a very smart, creative guy, but never really went down the art realm. There is like art blood. Like his mom was a artist in every sense of the word. She she was a very hands-on, crafty artist. She did everything from watercolor to stained glass windows. I mean, she did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, like, neither of my parents are particularly like artists, or pursued any of that creativity, but there is like definitely blood that goes back that is that creative
I love that. I
aspect.
mean, you mentioned Star Wars, obviously, episode one and Jurassic Park and everything, but were there any actual artists themselves that kind of influenced you and helped you along your way, or any mentors or anything?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of it's hard to tell my story without kind of going into a bit of a health aspect that I went through.
Okay.
Because that's what really kind of I don't know. It really was the like defining parameters that like set where I went in my journey to kind of get to where I was. I When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with something called cystic fibrosis. Um, and I don't want to turn this into a whole medical podcast, so
That's
I'll,
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
whoever is interested in it, I'll let them Google it. But in a nutshell, it's a terminal disease that it's your body's inability to manage salt and the role that salt plays in your body. And your For you guys, your body, there's I don't want to get like overly scientific with it, but salt kind of plays a role in managing your mucus levels in your body.
Yeah.
And everybody has mucus. Like mucus is like the oil in a car in our bodies. We have it in our lungs, we have it in our digestive tracts, it's everywhere. And CF, the salt mechanism that manages and keeps that mucus thin in a normal person, is broken. So it leads to a lot of really thick mucus that builds up in the airways and the lungs. It builds up in the pancreas. It affects a lot of the organs. Primarily, if you look into anything about cystic fibrosis, you're going to see a lot of lung stuff come up because that's
Yeah.
the primary thing that it targets. It basically leads to a lot of repeat lung infections until you get to a point where you either need a lung transplant. And when I was diagnosed, you either need a lung transplant or you can't get one and you um, usually die. It was a pretty bad disease at the time, and I was diagnosed when I was 10, and the doctors from there were always telling me and my folks that average life expectancy at that time was 30, and that's based on how I had kind of progressed and where I was when I was 10. That was probably a good number that I could expect. Um, and I think when you're 10 years old and you kind of learn that like you have this, you know, I don't know, I guess ceiling or cap kind of set
Yeah.
at 30, um, you live your life in a very different way than I think, I mean, than I'm assuming I would have if I hadn't.
Mm.
And you know, I was kind of I had this duality of like always wanting to pursue art and like do something, and then also like kind of having like this medical like on paper fact that I probably wouldn't live long enough to do anything with it
Mm.
or pursue it. So, you know, I kind of I was when I was 10, I was relatively healthy for someone with cystic fibrosis. The CF is kind of the shorter of it. So for somebody with CF, I was relatively healthy as a kid. You know, I went through elementary school, middle school, high school, um, and I guess once I graduated high school, I you know I was kind of at the point where it's like, okay, well, do I go to college? What am I doing here? And that was kind of hard for me because I wanted to do art. I liked it, but I kind of got in this mindset where like there's no point in pursuing anything, there's no point in developing anything. You're 18, you know, you're already more than halfway there if you know if this 30 number holds. And so I just kind of didn't really I kind of muted my ambitions of art. I didn't go to art school. I didn't I went to like my local just community college just because that's what all my friends were doing and I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'll just take some classes and do the general education stuff and I'll go work at, you know, I was at a worked at a mom and pop small takeout restaurant in my town. Um, Ended up working at Vans just as a stockroom guy in one of the malls here for I don't know, close to 10 years. Um, And so I kind of started moving into my mid 20s, and my health was now like really kind of starting to decline.
Yeah.
I kind of got to a point where my lung function, they kind of measure your how well your lungs are doing by, just how much air are you able to move, and they have these percentages, and I got to my mid 20s and things really started um, going downhill pretty quick. I was in the hospital for weeks at a time. I really couldn't go a couple months without getting admitted and going in there. It was a lot of years of IVs, antibiotic IVs to treat the lung infections, all kinds of, tubes and needles and stuff stuck everywhere. It wasn't a fun time. Uh, but I guess at that point, that's kind of where it was weird. It's like I was coming so close to like that, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 24, 25 when things really started escalating and going downhill. And I really kind of was on track to hit that 30 mark. And, it's weird after like this whole life of just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not really going to be able to do anything. Like, there's no point in pursuing it. It's like the worse I got and the more time I spent in the hospital, the more I was kind of like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Like, let's just see what I can get. Let's pursue the dream. Let's get something like accomplished that I can like die and be happy with and say that like, okay, I did it. I didn't just, waste what I did have. And I think part of that is just kind of growing up, the brain maturing and just, being a little more realistic and like not doomsday about the situation, which I think is easy to do when you're 13 and the world sucks anyway without CF. And like, and then it's like, parents suck and like my skateboard broke and like everything sucks. And then like, also I gotta go to the hospital now. Like,
Yeah.
but I think I got older and, I really kind of, in these like, what I was thinking were going to be kind of my final years, I was like, no, you know what? Let's get to art school. Let's just see what happens. Um, and cystic fibrosis is not, it's not one of those things where you can kind of walk into any hospital and every doctor is going to know exactly what to do with it. It is a rare disease. I think in the US, I don't know if this statistic still holds, but what I've always heard over the years was that 1 in 30,000 people has it. So it's not common. And so there's certain hospitals around the world that have specialty cystic fibrosis clinics with teams that specialize in that. So I'm in California. I live in Santa Cruz, and the nearest one of those clinics was in Palo Alto in Stanford. Stanford University, their hospital has a really good cystic fibrosis clinic. So in my move to now start looking for art schools, Stanford had me on a pretty short leash with my health and stuff, with how often I needed to be there to either sit on my butt in a hospital bed for a month while they did IVs or to go in and just for, checkups and stuff. I was there a lot. So the proximity of Stanford to what art school I had to go to was kind of narrowed. And I ended up at this school in San Francisco called California College of the Arts. And I knew, I had all the knowledge of what goes into making these movies and, these art books that I had as a kid. And um, I knew I wanted to be a concept artist. I knew I kind of wanted to go in that direction. I wanted to be the person that draws and creates these things for these films. Um, and I was, kind of on this California College of the Arts site, and they were, talking about their illustration program, and they they kind of talked about a lot of what that degree would get you and what it can lead to and what that material and curriculum was, composed of. And um, it wasn't exactly concept art. They didn't really talk about, art for film or any kind of entertainment direction. It was a lot more like, I don't know, I guess illustration for more like editorial stuff for posters, book covers, stuff like that. Um, but it talked a little bit about, you know, for anybody looking to go into game design or video game artwork and stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe that's close enough. Let's just go there. And it really was kind of my only option as far as finding something that was art school and, a stone's throw from Stanford. So went there for a couple years, quickly realized that it was uh, definitely not going to take me in the direction that I wanted to go in with the movie art and the film stuff. It was, I still learned, I still got exposed to a lot of digital programs and, kind of was able to transition from like drawing with pencil on paper to more digital, Photoshop and all that stuff, which helped. But and all the while, those couple years I was there, I missed. It feels like I missed more time than I spent actually there, just because I was in the hospital so much. I ended up missing a lot of time, but was always really diligent. Was always, I brought my computer and my iPad and was always drawing and trying to keep up with the homework in the hospital. Um, and then I took a class with this teacher. Um, and sorry if I'm like super long-winded. I want to let you guys like
No,
jump in.
please carry on. We love this.
I was just like, I don't want to make sure I'm droning on too much.
No, please, Scott. Honestly, carry on.
So I was kind of like getting to the point where I'm like, man, I like really got myself in the wrong school. I don't really know what to do. Again, lung function numbers are just dropping by the month. And I took this class that was a introduction to digital painting, and it was basically just learning how to paint like you would with a brush on canvas, except doing it in Photoshop with digital brushes. And I walk in there the first day, and it's this the teacher is this woman named Stacy Tang, and she kind of does her introduction of herself and what she's her background, what she does, and what this class is going to be like. And um, Stacy, her presentation about herself was all about her experience in film, and she kind of showed some movies she had worked on. And Stacy was she did a couple different things, but she was, I think, primarily a matte painter, which is simplest way to break it down. When you look at movies and they're filming and there's a green screen, and then they go and do the movie magic where they, put a, I don't know, vast world or something or alien world behind the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That those scenes are kind of made by people who are called matte painters who essentially compose a lot of photos and create these photorealistic like scenes to go behind and go on that green screen. So Stacy did that, and I like I totally lit up when I saw her, her presentation. I was just kind of like, okay, this is like the first, hope. This is in the direction that I want. And that semester I stayed after class every time, and I bugged the shit out of Stacy. I wanted to have every drip of information she could give me. I wanted to learn everything I could from her. The class, what I was learning was awesome. I was so stoked that like I could see like my progress and how, I don't know, just how much I was growing as a digital artist now. And um, I I really expressed to her my my kind of situation, and that I was really kind of bummed that I was at CCA and I don't know what to do, and I don't really think there's anything I can do. But like I really just want to take away as much as I can from your class, and she was aware of my health issues with how much I had to leave and disappear. Um, but it kind of got to the point where I was like, cool, maybe Stacy's class, this is kind of that, like, this is the peak, this is that accomplishment. I'm gonna get to just grow like hell in this semester and do digital art, and then my health is gonna get to a point where I can't do any of this anymore, and that'll have to be the good enough accomplishment. Um, and so probably about halfway through the semester, Stacy brought her husband in to talk to our class and give a presentation. And her husband is a man named Emmanuel Shiu, who is probably one of the most accomplished concept artists in the industry. Emmanuel is a little more of an environment concept artist, or at least that's what his kind of track record is. So Emmanuel has designed, uh, I mean, he's done spaceships, he's done battlefields, he's done interiors of spaceships. He's worked on, I don't so many movies. The new Matrix. He's worked on Thor movies, Godzilla versus Kong. He's got just this really, really, really long IMDb page of all of his accolades and what he's worked on. And uh, so I had another, like, holy shit, this guy is like finally there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, this is like another opportunity to just like, you know, really talk to Stacy and just get as much as I can out of this, because she just had this amazing connection with her husband. And so she, I guess, had I after he left, I kind of stayed behind and was talking to her about just, what a cool job that is. He's so incredible. This is just so amazing. Thank you for, like, bringing him in. That was so cool.
Will you
Um,
adopt me?
yeah, like, can I go home with you guys? Like, I'll sleep outside. I don't care. Um, yeah, but so she, I guess, she kind of ended up talking to her husband and just telling him about me and the situation that I was in. And they kind of ended up I ended up on a Zoom call with them, kind of outside of school, and they were kind of like, this school is never gonna give you what you want. We understand, that you're kind of on the clock here, health wise. Um, and what is your dream? Like, what do you want to do? Like, just being here and going to Stacy's class, like, let's, you probably have a little more time. What can we help you do to make you accomplish your goals? And um, my goal at that point had kind of started to transition into, like, I want to work on a movie. I want to design a creature for a movie. I I was an archaeologist wannabe. I was a dinosaur kid. I love anything animals. I love creatures, monsters, all of that. I want to make one for a movie. And they were like, okay, well, that's if you stay here and you go through all these classes at this school, it's just not gonna get you there. And in this world that you want to go into, um, your degree from this school doesn't matter. it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna hold any weight compared to your portfolio. And what pieces do you have? That is your degree, is the pieces that you can create, that you show, and that is what's gonna get you hireable. Um, and they offered me or her husband, Emmanuel, offered me a mentorship to study under him. He was going to train me, um, and kind of try to get me to where I wanted to be before my health kind of, put the final nail in whatever coffin I was working with. And so I had one more semester to go at California College of the Arts, before, and I would have graduated with a illustration degree and no art to show that would make anybody in the film world interested and want to, hire me. It was just stuff I was doing in all these other classes was just going in the wrong direction. So I left. I left one semester to go. I said, okay, I guess I don't need the degree, and I put, full trust in Emmanuel and Stacy, and um, Emmanuel mentored me for about a year. Um, and it was really cool because I was able to learn, and he's amazing. I was learning from the best, and I was able to learn kind of with a very understanding person who got my health issues, was totally flexible and willing to work around, my hospitalizations and all this stuff. It was really tailored to just what I needed. It was incredible. Um, and we worked together for about a year. He kind of taught me everything I know in this world, and in the world of concept art and film. And uh, kind of we were at that about 1 year mark after working with him. There was a new medication that came out, for cystic fibrosis, and it really like transformed the landscape of CF and this disease for people everywhere. And it's not a cure, but it's pills that I take that kind of fix the mechanism that's broken, and uh, address essentially most of the symptoms and all the problems that the disease causes. So it there was a lot of damage done to my lungs over the years that this disease, or this medication, will not fix. It won't undo anything, but moving forward, it kind of stops the
Yeah.
progression and
Yep.
fixes the symptoms. Um, and that medication came at a point where my lung function was getting close to the point where I was going to need a transplant, and they were talking about having that conversation with me. The medication came out, and I responded insanely well to it. Um, my lung function was at like 43%, and
Jesus.
I I exploded up to like 99.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, and I've been on that drug for I think 6 years now, and haven't been hospitalized since. Haven't had a
Oh,
lung
Get
infection
in.
since.
That is
we love
incredible.
it.
Yeah, it was really crazy. I still have some issues, but yeah, that medication hit, and Emmanuel, shortly after that medication, I started that medication. Emmanuel did whatever magic he does with his connections, and he got me on Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which was my first like actual gig, and that went really well, and the team was stoked on my stuff enough that they ended up assigning me to the like main creature. So I got to design the dragon. There's like this big wooden dragon that's kind of the main creature villain. And yeah, I got to design it. I got to work one-on-one with the director. It was an amazing experience. Um, Emmanuel kind of introduced me to a lot of other people that just led to so many more projects since. Yeah, like you said, I've worked on. I had a couple stints at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, which is Lucasfilm's VFX house, and got to work on. It was through them that I was able to work on Wicked. Um, there's been some commercial work that I've gotten to do. It's a lot of projects. A lot has happened in the last 6 years. Um, just work-wise, health-wise, everything. But yeah, there was like it's like the longest answer to a question ever. But
It's all
yes,
good,
there
man.
was a mentor.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a mentor that helped me.
I'm not gonna lie, when you said the longest answer to the question, I was like, what was the question again? I couldn't remember.
So before I move on, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
It was, it takes a lot to obviously to open up and we've only been talking for 25 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you being willing to open up and talk about it so openly. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm so fucking pleased that medication came out and that Stacey and Emmanuel believed in you enough to take you on that journey. And the universe just went, I think he's had enough shit for the last 20 years. Let's let him,
Yeah.
And fair play to you as well, because a lot of people in your position might have given up, gone, what's the point? But you went, no, if I've got limited time, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to do my fucking damnedest to follow my dream. And you did it. And that's incredible. For anyone listening to this, that is an incredible inspiration.
Yeah. It's weird. It's like, I kind of lived my whole life not taking anything too seriously. I mean, I didn't do my homework in grade school. I was anything I turned in had like a demon drawn all over it or something, or like like there was no like it was always art. It was just drawing, and I didn't think I needed to take education seriously. I didn't, there was a lot that I didn't think I ever really needed to care about pursuing, and it was just weird the closer I got to like what was probably going to be death, or at least the horrible experience that is a lung transplant, which usually shortly follows with death. Like I just got closer to those horrible points that I was just like, I don't know, it was weird. It was like I was like more driven the
Yeah.
closer I got to the bad. And yeah, I don't know, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But that dragon is bad fucking ass.
Yes, it
I
is.
have the detail that must have gone into that as well. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, I'm not an artist, so I can't sit here and start being like, oh well, this and that, dude, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Thank
And
you.
what a first project to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a whirlwind. I initially was brought on because I was totally green. I was a junior artist.
Yeah.
I had this portfolio of kind of personal pieces that Emmanuel had me put together. Um, but I was brought on to kind of help out with the more of the tertiary creatures at the very end of the movie. And and there were a couple of us put on that, and then they had brought in some pretty heavy hitting industry like titans to work on the dragon, and a couple of them kind of, I think it was partly fate. A couple of them kind of had to leave because they got pulled away to different shows. They were busy. Um, and I they kind of threw me a bone. We're just like, Scott, why don't you just do a quick sketch? Let's just see you know what you have on the dragon, and but focus on these other ones, but just if you have time. And yeah, I did this sketch, which turned into a 3D model, and they were like, "Cool, we're running with you. You're doing the big
Amazing.
one." So yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
amazing. But all the animal designs in that film are incredible. I especially like the harpies, the unicorns, like all the creature designs in that film are amazing. But yeah, that dragon's something else. It really is.
Yeah.
What an incredible. It's when I was doing my research on you, it's like the earliest project I could find was Shazam 2. And I was like, surely that's not how he got his start in this industry. I was like, surely it was like independent film, like work up. And the fact that was actually the first thing you worked on, that's mental. Like, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. My mentor was just like, dang, that doesn't happen. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so, and it was, I think I owe it all to him. And yeah, it was wild. It was a wild ride, and it's been cool to just kind of keep growing in that world. And yeah, I don't know. It was
How
weird.
how did it feel to see it come to life though?
Oh, it was like, I don't know. It was wild. Like just sitting there. I think part of that is in concept art, you meet with the directors and they kind of tell you, okay, we like for that one, it was basically we need a wooden dragon and it needs to be scary. And so your job as a concept artist is to kind of put together on paper or on a 3D file what you think the director has in their head and or what they want to see in their head because they don't know. That's your job as a designer. And in the concept art stages, there's a lot of opportunity when from you kind of saying, okay, here's the final design, the director going, great, that's it, like, you know, bye. You're kind of done, and you're done, and it's kind of up to greater minds to make the official, model that they animate and they make move, and the actual sculpt that you're seeing in the film. Um, so a lot can kind of change. Your job is to do the kind of the roadmap and the general idea of what it needs to look like, but there's a lot of stages that come after you leave. And I mean, I worked on Shazam. It was like 2 years before it came out. It was a while. I don't think they'd even started filming when I was on it. But um, more often than not, there's a lot of collaboration that happens. There's a lot of other artists that have kind of, you know, given input on it when they actually start making the thing that they're going to make move and animate. So there's a lot of opportunity for your design to kind of get like, a little diluted or changed or completely scrumpled up and thrown out. And, the director looks at it for long enough that they're just like, you know what, actually, I loved this a couple months ago, but I don't like it now. Let's totally change it. That happens all the time. Um, so it was really cool to just see sitting in theaters how close they stuck to my original design. Um, the guys that went in and like kind of did another layer of design on it that like overhauled and really focused on the anatomy and stuff to really make it animated and make the actual one that you're seeing on the screen. They did a phenomenal job at like really polishing it and but the major essence of my design was like 100% there on the screen. And that was like, I don't know, that was like an out of body experience sitting there in the theater and like, watching my name go by in the credits. That was like, cool, I can die now. Like this, I mean, I won't, but I can.
Yeah, please don't. But yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It was just, yeah, it was amazing. The feeling was just undescribable.
Because it's literally what you wanted to do before, obviously, you were no longer left in this world. But thankfully, the medication side is still here, which is excellent. But still, like, you've done it. That's it. Big
Yeah.
tick. Thank you very much. I can now sit back and then Wicked comes along.
Yeah.
Two for
Yeah.
two. Let's go for two.
Yeah, I got pulled on to Lucasfilm. I have a couple connections there and have a good relationship with their team, and they brought me on to work on a couple different things. And I wrapped up with them, and a month later they were like, "Hey, we need you back." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." Because I'm freelance like by trade, and I'll hop
Yeah.
on with studios as needed for projects. But they're like, "Yeah, we need you," and they're like, it's for Wicked. And I was like, I'm not a musical guy at all. I was kind of like, what? Like what? Like, and I Googled it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, the Broadway thing. And I was like, I don't know, like full disclosure, in my head, I was kind of like, who the hell's gonna want to see that? Like, I hate
Oh,
musicals.
oh, I feel like
And
I've just
that's,
been
you know, that's
stabbed. Oh, oh, I'm so offended right now.
I
Oh, Scott.
I like that was just the total anti-musical, close-minded like person at that time that I was just like, and of course I was like, okay, well, like I mean, like I'll get to design like stuff, but I was like, what creatures are possibly going to be in that? And I was like, there's no way they're going to want me for the flying monkeys. They're going to have their bigger people on that, but I don't really know what else. But I was like, okay, like yeah, great, I'm on board. And yeah, I got on and they threw the flying monkeys at me, and um, I don't know, it was a really fun project. It was really cool, and I was super wrong with how big it was going to be. Like it was like
Just,
just a tad.
just a tad.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I just like I did the monkeys. I wrapped up with them. I waited a couple years for them to make it. Sat in theaters, and I was just like, I loved it. I was like, I guess I'm a musical guy now because I thought that movie was amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Um,
But
yeah, but
as you might have gathered from my initial reaction, like Oz means a lot to me, that whole world. Absolutely. So when that film was announced, I was very, very excited. But you didn't just work on the Flying Monkeys. You worked on Chistery. Is that right? The leader of the Flying Monkeys. So did you just work on one and then they copied that for all of them, or was it we want you to do Chistery?
yeah, so it started off as Chistery, and I think Chistery was supposed to be the leader or the general of the Flying Monkeys, and um I think it was kind of a hybrid. It was a bit of like, okay, we're gonna focus on Chistery. We gotta figure him out. And then however he kind of ends up looking, we'll just kind of propagate that to the other monkeys. I mean, they're all the same species. They're all gonna
Yeah,
look
yeah.
more or less like him. But yeah, the primary objective was kind of like, let's figure Chistery out. And I didn't they had different different folks working on costume stuff, so I didn't touch any of his all the really cool armor that he ended up with and stuff. That I had nothing to do with any of that. I was primarily tasked with like kind of figuring out like general proportions of him. What how big are his wings going to be? What do the wings look like? What monkeys are we basing him off of? There's so many like just options in the world of monkeys and apes and stuff. What direction do we kind of want him to look like? And then the face. There was a lot of time spent on the face, and it was like it was kind of one of those things where like I don't know about you guys, but the original Wizard of Oz, when I saw the flying monkeys when I was a little kid, they scared the shit out of me. And this like and that was kind of the common like discussion point a lot of the time when we first started talking about it. They were like, you know, this is going to be, we want families watching this, we want kids watching this. We don't want horror monkey, we don't want them to be scary, but everything in that world is just so fantastical and different, and so it's got to have this like Ozian spin on the monkeys besides just making them blue. And we went through a lot of iterations, and I ended up kind of pitching, and um, it was kind of my design that I thought like, okay, this is like they're not asking to go this crazy. This is kind of my like, let's see if this sticks. I think it's a cool idea, but it might be the one that ends up on the cutting room floor first. Um, but in one of my delivery dumps of iterations, I turned in this one that I kind of did these like I don't know if you guys know what a mandrill is. They're like baboons with really colorful faces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
They have these like red snouts, and they have these like ridges that kind of go down the snout. And I was like, well, maybe if I take those ridges and kind of like bring them up and wrap them around the eyes, it could kind of look just different. Like it'll look like a monkey, but it might look kind of cool. And I remember turning it in, and uh, some of the folks were kind of like, that's kind of weird. Maybe I don't know. Let's see. We'll see what John Shiu says. And they came back and they're like, he loved it. They like the monkey, the ridges on the face. He's really stoked on that. So I was like really geeked on that. And then um, I left. I did my and they had me do some scarecrow work too. I did some stuff on the scarecrow for a little bit, but ended up staying there for 4 or 5 months. Left and waited a couple years. The movie came out and or the trailer started coming out, and it was really cool to see like some of those details stick. But they definitely, and that was kind of an example where they definitely changed some things. I mean, if you look at like my art image of Chistery and like the close-up face that I was really like studying and working on, um, in the first trailer that dropped, there was like a close-up shot of him, and they like there were things that they changed. They, between me leaving and the trailer hitting the air, Chistery had like they had given him a big scar on his eye. His eyes were different colored. They were like one was green, one was
Hmm.
red. I don't remember, but and then he had this like little like goatee like um, I don't know, braid thing hanging from his chin, and that was none of that was there when I left off, and so that was kind of an example of like where they kind of still are working on things and iterating things. But it was cool to just kind of see like the general structure of him stay true to what I had
Yeah.
turned in. But yeah, Wicked was it was really weird just seeing how big it was, and I was so friggin' wrong with like I totally underestimated the musical community and the power of that stuff. And yeah, I was like, yeah, it was crazy.
It's because I don't know if you've now seen Wicked the musical since all this experience, but Chistery and the monkeys in that very different look to the movie version. So did you look at that when you did the original design, or was it just I'm going to go blank? This is what I'm going to do from scratch.
Um, I did a little bit, um, but they really kind of wanted to make something new.
Mm.
They really did, and um, I guess it was part of it was like Chistery in like the Broadway stuff is like he's a person, he's it's a human in a costume, and so a lot of it was like just really kind of figuring out like what like we know we want like a monkey. It's got to be like truly an animal. We're gonna go full CG with it, so we have the power to really make it an animal, and let's try and kind of base it in the animal world as much as we can. And um, yeah, I don't really remember a lot of conversations about being too concerned about sticking super faithfully to the Broadway on his design specifically, at least from what I remember.
It's an amazing design because I remember like when the film was coming out and people were talking about it, they're like, I just hope they get the flying monkeys right because it's something that could so easily go wrong. And then everyone was like, these look fucking incredible. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm like I think like it's cool to see the little things that I was able to kind of contribute, but like the the work that went into the costume, the VFX, the just the quality of all the work that went into like bringing them actually to life on the screen. I mean, it was amazing. They're really cool, and there were a lot of people besides me that contributed a heck of a lot more than I did to it, and it was just cool to see like my 2D you know digital image and where it ended up. It's wild.
I mean, not being a massive musical guy as well, did that help? Because it's quite an iconic Broadway show and it's quite an iconic world almost. So not having the prior knowledge of being like a massive fan, so there was obviously no pressure then in what you designed.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I guess I personally didn't feel like, I didn't have any sense of like, okay, well, like I have this, preconceived notion of what that
Yeah.
is and what this may like the direction needs to go into, what it needs to look like. I didn't have anything in my head, at least, of like, well, the Broadway's got this, and I gotta pay homage to that. It was just kind of like I don't like. I think the first time I saw the Chistery Broadway design was when I was just doing research and just trying to look at what other versions have been done with the flying
Yeah.
monkeys. And um yeah, and it's, I don't know, all the flying monkeys that I've seen throughout the years, they're they're so different, even looking in the books and stuff. I mean, I don't know, I haven't really seen two that are super close, besides the fact that the monkeys have wings. They're very different.
Tom, obviously, we talked about some of the projects you've worked on, but I do want to talk about the whole process in general. Also, I know it can be different for different processes, but what does the general process look like when you sign on to a role? Is it director tells you what you need to do and go off, or is there a lot more to it than that?
Um, yeah, I guess yes and no. It's your job as a concept artist is, I mean, it's to design. That's kind of the primary focus. It's, everything you see in a film, whether it's a costume or a creature or the internals of a sci-fi vehicle or a landscape, everything needs to be figured out and designed. And there's the concept artist's job is to um, figure out what it's going to look like. And obviously they don't hire you and say like, do whatever you want. Like there's a lot of like, there's definitely parameters. You talk to the director or the visual effects supervisor or the the yeah, there's art director. Um, and they have their parameters. They know what they want. They have the general guidelines. Um, and part of your information comes, if they have a script ready or a first version of the script, they'll send you that and you read through it and kind of see how it was, whatever you're doing was described in the writing.
Hmm.
Um, and but yeah, and I guess just like kind of throwing back to Shazam, that's like the best description. The director David Sandberg was like, we got to have a dragon. It's like a fear dragon. He's got to be scary. He's got to be made of wood. Um, he's gonna glow. He's gonna have these like glowing points throughout him when he like charges up and blows his fierce breath. So um, there's a good amount of meat on the bone to go off of, but it's it's just wild how many interpretations of like the same notes that the director will give you, how many interpretations show up when they give it to, three or four or five different concept artists, and the look, the style, it's so different, and that's kind of your job, just to like iterate and present things. And sometimes you're there to find out what really doesn't work. Sometimes you're like, sometimes they're like, nope. But it's all, a lot of the time there's a couple other people there working on stuff on the same, design or creature. And you can take things that, the director likes in other people's designs, but didn't like in this. And you're just kind of puzzling together the best image you think the director wants to have in his head.
Yeah.
So there's a decent amount of idea and guidance, but there's also a lot of kind of room to give your interpretation of it, and that's kind of what you're hired for.
But when you're starting off, because I know we do a lot of your work on Photoshop and programs like that, do you start off just using digital, or you pencil and paper first before you start going to a near computer?
Yeah, sorry, I like that was your question. I feel like I gave you a different answer to a different question.
No, no, no.
Yeah, so my actual process, so I talk to the director, read the script, get the idea. I I spend a couple hours just gathering reference. That's like my first thing before I pick up a pencil, do anything. I do a lot of research.
Mm.
Um, if I'm designing a wooden dragon, like, okay, well, what is the frame that I'm building this dragon off of? Is it, am I using like a lizard body? Am I using like should it be more like big cat structure? Like what's going to lend itself to the anatomy that I think they're kind of going for and describing? Um, with the dragon, it's like there was like good amount of time just like me kind of compiling a bunch of photos of what burnt trees look like and gnarled wood and stuff. So there's a lot of that. Um, and then once I'm like, okay, it's time to kind of get going, um I don't really draw. I can't remember the last time I like physically took a pen to paper to make something. I'm fully digital. Um, so I go into Photoshop and my first stage is just to kind of start sketching, getting loose ideas there. And like for myself, nothing that anybody would ever see. It's just to kind of get things going. Um, and at that same time, I go into a program called ZBrush, which is basically, in the same way that Photoshop can be used to like digitally paint. Um, ZBrush is clay sculpting. It's your block of clay in front of you, but in the computer digitally that you're manipulating with your tablet or your drawing monitor. Um, and I sculpt it and I make rough models and I'll get the model to a point where it's kind of working, and then you take that that clay model you've made in ZBrush and you send it to a programmer. A lot of people do it a lot of different ways. Concept art, there's so many ways to tackle these things, but I take it from ZBrush and I throw it into uh, a rendering program, which basically lets you kind of move lights around and you can kind of use a camera to swirl around your model and find the best angle to show it from. And you can basically set up a studio or lighting or however you want it, to be shown. And um, I render the model with like the lighting and it basically just kind of calculates and makes it so that it's getting the most realistic lighting that is interacting with the material of your model as possible. And that's kind of your final image. Um, what I do a lot of the time, and it's a pretty big practice in the industry for a lot of folks who don't even go into 3D at all. But there's a process called photo bashing, which is basically going in and um, using like photos to just kind of instead of hand painting in every little detail when you go back to your final image. There's a lot of just kind of laying photos on top that kind of help you get everything looking a little more photoreal. Um, a lot of it really just depends on kind of what the director jives with as far as like what their brain kind of registers with. A lot of directors can look at really loose sketches and get where you're going and be really stoked on that. While other ones need like really photo real. They want to see it in what we call keyframes, which is they want to see your art presented in a way that looks like a film from their movie that they're making.
Hmm.
They want to see the composition really cool, the lighting's got to be really cool. They want to see a background, they want to see color, texture, everything. And and some just I did a lot of it on Shazam. Some just want the model and you light the model and just show different angles from it. It can be a black background. They don't really care about much. It can be in a vacuum, but they just want to see the design and look around the 3D part of it. Um, so it really depends on what they're doing, and what they're kind of vibing with as far as like their ability to kind of see where it can go for their film. But a lot of what I'll do is I'll take my model, I'll kind of pose it, I'll get the lighting cool, and then I'll render out a 2D image of that shot of my model, and then I'll go back into Photoshop and then start dumping photos and splicing stuff in to kind of make it look like it's, sitting in a city or it's, in a jungle, and I'll instead of going in and painting every tree and leaf, you just go and you buy packs of photos and you kind of manipulate them into there so it looks like a shot. And yeah, it's crazy how many ways there are to kind of achieve the same goal, and how each artist works a little differently with their process to ultimately give the same thing, which is just an image to show the director for them to say yes or no on. I mean, there's guys that have been in the industry forever that are um, amazing draftsmen with just drawing. They still work on pencil and paper, um, and they don't touch 3D. They don't deal with it at all. They don't do any 3D sculpting. They don't do any digital painting. They're just drawing, and they can draw circles around anybody. And the designs, the just the 2D pencil on paper or charcoal on paper, ink, whatever they're using, like the designs read, they look amazing. And a lot of directors hire them just because they're good at that specific channel of, presentation. It's wild.
It's crazy. I never thought about things like lighting in this sort of thing because you just think, oh, you want the design of what this creature's going to look like. Just needs to be there. You go. That's what it looks like. I never thought about all the intricate details before, of like modeling and lighting and all that. So there's so much more into it than I think people realize.
Yeah, because a lot of it, like, part of what you're doing is you're addressing the concerns or the notes of the director, the visual effects supervisor, whoever. Um, but you're also like you kind of want to present it in a way that really sells your idea to them.
Mm.
Like you want to make it in a way that like they can really easily see it in their film. And um a creature or a character that's like posed in this like action moment is going to be a lot more engaging than um just a character kind of just standing rigid in a vacuum. Yeah. And a lot and not to like knock any concept artists or work that does present that. I think there's a lot of a lot of video game stuff, and a lot of directors do want to see that. That's all they care about. But I think more often than not, I personally try to present things in a way where um, you can get some kind of emotion from it other than just like that's a cool jacket, or like, or that's a cool tail. Like, I think anything that like brings the viewer in a little more, whether it's posing or the lighting, there's a lot you can do with that really helps sell a design and can hook a director on that stuff.
You mentioned earlier how you're freelance. So how do you get onto these projects in the first place? Are you like applying for them, or is it word of mouth? How does this sort of thing work?
Um, a lot of it, I think, has just been like the connections that I've built, and there's there have been some studios that I've reached out to and sent my portfolio to and said like, hey, like, I do this stuff. Here's my portfolio. If you guys ever need creature work or anything, let me know. So I have reached out. I Most of the stuff has been them finding me. I have my website which with all my art on it, but I also upload all my work onto a website called ArtStation. And
Yes.
ArtStation it's a really big platform for the entertainment art, the video game art, the movie art, and that's where a lot of recruiters and art directors and producers go when they're looking for um, for new artists to build a team and for whatever project it is. And I think a lot of my work comes from kind of the connections I've built, and the word of mouth and folks reaching out. Um, I think, and I can trace that all the way back to Emmanuel. I mean, he's the one that really just kind of put me in contact with everybody I know, and got me on a lot of people's radar. Um, but yeah, I would say it's kind of more, I've been contacted more often than reaching out, but I definitely still do, kind of bug studios here and there and just send my stuff and um, yeah.
But
Do you
from,
ever,
from
do,
also,
sorry, Jamie, go on, Jamie.
I was just going to say, I imagine from like with your childhood and just being like bugging Disney, like, give me a Star Wars character. Give me a Star Wars character. You've got enough projects coming out. Give me one. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's like I definitely it's interesting like how my goals have kind of shifted and changed now because it's like, I had that like I want one thing, but now it's like now my goals are like I want to work on a Star Wars movie
Oh, yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
I want one of those. I want to work on Avatar. I want one of those. Like, I have all these like, you know, new bars that I've kind of set for myself to try and hit and yeah, it's I don't know, it's cool. It's like I think on one hand it's kind of like just fun to be working and there's always a bit of a like a mystery. I love the moment when you like get contacted by like a producer or a studio and they're like, "Hey, we got something." And it's always just kind of like, "Okay, like cool, what is it?" Like, is it like what is it? Like, come on, Avatar. Like, like it's that moment's always exciting, just kind of like waiting to kind of figure out like, okay, what's it gonna be? But like no matter what it is, it's always fun.
I like the idea of you sat there being like, it's Jurassic Chef Boyardee. Okay, that's fine. Commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. That's absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've had that. I've had stuff that like I primarily specialize in creatures, but I mean I've worked on a Starbucks commercial before. I've done,
Love
these
that.
other things. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of I think I've developed my skills in a way that like I think I'm a little more versatile than just specifically
Yeah,
creature work.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that is like my bread and butter and like, given the choice any day of the week, I'm gonna want to go in that direction.
No, makes sense. It's what you're fucking good at as well. So, um, on the concept of AI, I know we can go in so many different directions with this. Do you feel it's a helpful tool or are you concerned?
I think I have a an unhealthy blend of both on
Okay.
that in my thought process.
Yeah.
I there's there's definitely concern. I think but it's hard to say that that concern is just um specific to AI in the art world. Um
Yeah.
but obviously, I mean, obviously it is making a big impact in the art world. It's replacing a lot. Um, but I think I think it can be used in a tool as a tool in specific ways. I think going into these things and typing out your prompt and it spitting an image out and you going, cool, I'm an artist now, and posting that on ArtStation.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like if you build a machine that plays tennis for you, are you a tennis player? It's
I like that. That's good. I
like
like that.
like I just I but I guess what I do see is, if you want to go on Midjourney or whatever these things are and use it for kind of like idea generating,
Mm.
getting a lot of iterations quickly and not taking them, but maybe finding some elements that are like that give you ideas and help in a brainstorming way so that you can then go on and create your own thing. I think there's some value there.
Yeah.
Um, and Photoshop has a lot of AI components that are not really AI in the way that I think a lot of people think. Like, you can go to Midjourney and have a image of whatever you want spit out, and you can, you know, have a fully set thing that you can post and do whatever with. Um, but Photoshop, I mean, there's things where like, if I have an image and I want to like, I think I'm done, and the director's like, well, I want to see a little more of the sky or the ground in my image. I can just kind of like extend my canvas, and they have a this like auto generation thing where it'll kind of fill in the work you've already done. It'll kind of extend it
Yeah.
and add to it and I think there's value there. I think that saved me a lot. I think there's times where like I've needed to photo bash something and there's parts of the photo that I don't like, and I can circle them and tell it to like just AI just kind of blend that away and get rid of it. I think there's little things like that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that are useful, but um, I I'm hesitant to say that I'm like fully worried about it and like, yeah, art schools should shut down because this is gonna be the kill shot for just any creatives. I think like it kind of boils down more to your ideas now, and I think it makes those all the more important.
Mm.
Um, because AI, all it's doing is like quickly giving you a leg up from a technical standpoint if you know how to use it. Yeah, it can spit out an image that's looks colorful and it's lit really cool, but I think the value is in the idea that the person entering the prompt is is like, what are they doing? What are they asking for?
Yeah.
And I think it's all the more valuable for artists now to be making pieces that do invoke emotion, that do make you feel something, that have designs that are interesting and unique because whether I spend a week making a design or somebody else spends 10 minutes in AI making a design, it's like if the design idea is better and presented in a way that makes the director feel like, sad for the monster that is supposed to be this sympathetic creature, they're going to go with that image over the one that is just kind of this generic,
Yeah.
cookie cutter AI thing. So, and I guess, a lot of the times I hear people talking about how, AI is pulling from other artists and there's all these copyright issues, and which is 100% a thing. It is doing that. AI scours ArtStation, Twitter, wherever people are posting their art, and it absolutely takes elements of artists' work and it creates, and I think that's a huge, huge problem. But what I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed for is that AI is so prevalent and anybody can make it, and it is all over the internet now. It is everywhere. Like, I think we're going to get to a point where AI is like kind of just referencing itself, and it's going to kind of turn into this like self-destructing cannibalistic thing, like that's what my fingers are crossed hoping for. I think it's just going to start like, it's if there's this much like real art and there's this much AI art out there and it needs to pull from art, at some point it's going to start just
Turning
finding
itself.
its AI and just going off of that, and that's not going to be good for itself. So I don't know. I think it's like I'm like keeping my fingers crossed that that's the direction it goes in,
Yeah.
but
God
we'll
knows how
see.
many fingers will be putting on people when that happens. Like,
Yeah.
it's already giving people extra digits.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
looking at the future, though, are there any themes or ideas that you'd like to explore going forward? Obviously, you're known for your monsters and creatures and stuff like that. Is there anything out of that box of that you'd like to have a bash at? Something that's just like, I reckon I could do that.
Yeah. I'd really like to do I mean I obviously want to continue the momentum with the creature stuff, but I do want to get more into like the like costume stuff and like character work. I think that could be kind of cool. And I think there's a way to kind of marry those, like when you look at like Star Wars bounty hunters that are like they're people with they have weird heads and masks and faces because they're aliens, but like I think I think doing kind of a lot of that, like kind of marrying the creature stuff to more like true character costume, like human design
Yeah.
could be cool. I don't really have any experience with video games yet. I'd really like to get into games. I think that would be kind of a cool, or I guess just different experience. I think it would be a little different pace, and yeah, I guess video games are kind of my next like avenue that I'd like to start pursuing. Um, but yeah, I think it's like I think there's also kind of this like ambition to like always stay on top of um, all the new programs that come out and what digital tools can I use that are like, you know, really um gonna help speed up my pipeline and there is kind of this like just wanting to make sure that I stay up to date and relevant with like, what are all these new tools that are coming out and what can I do to continue to grow with them, you know?
But is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you're allowed to talk about, or just say, yes, I'm working on something?
Um, not right now. Not right now. Right now, I've just been taking some time to work on some personal stuff, some personal kind of more just portfolio pieces,
Yeah.
things that I've been wanting to do for a while that I've just got some time now to do. So nothing exciting to talk about right now in the way of film or anything, but yeah, just more like personal projects that I'm kind of excited about.
I did mean to say when we were talking about cystic fibrosis stuff earlier, the image you put up of the person looking in the mirror, and I assume some sort of cystic fibrosis monster, you could call it, looking back, that is striking. It is absolutely incredible. Like, what an image. That's absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe when I saw it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Sorry. That one, I don't know. Yeah, my mom didn't like that one at all. She she
Really?
Oh,
she was she was like it was just that one was I think it, there was an intention of like the cystic fibrosis awareness obviously. But I think like I think when you go through a disease like CF where you got IVs in you all the time. You're, hacking up mucus out of your lungs 24/7. Um, your stomach's a mess. It's like it's just a really like gross, bad, horrible disease. And I think like half of that piece was like, yes, CF awareness, lung stuff, hospital, this was my story. Um, but I think the other half of that was like kind of more about the mental health side of it and like kind of how I saw myself for so long, and like the the impact on your confidence and your self-worth and what that does and um yeah, that was kind of more what I was trying to say with that one. Um because I don't know, it's rough. I don't think anybody who goes through, whether it's cancer or just any horrible health thing, I can't fathom anybody going through that without any kind of mental health repercussions from
of
it.
course.
It's just like it's part of the bag, and it's I think it's something that probably isn't talked about enough. But yeah, it's there's like a lot of growing that I still have to do on that front because there's the medication didn't heal those scars, and it's like
Yeah.
it's there's a lot there to work on. But yeah, I kind of did that. My mom was my mom was that was a rough one for her to watch or to see.
I can imagine. Obviously, I am
Yeah.
conscious of the time, but if anyone's listening to this and they want to get into this world, obviously your story getting into it is very unique. But what advice would you give to artists who are trying to break into like concept design now in 2026?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a lot of directions I would recommend to go in. I think um, doing your homework and finding an art school or an art program that is centered around the film and game world, because it's very different going to just an art school that is illustration based versus the very specific kind of illustration that this is. And there are a lot of schools that focus on that. There's a lot of online schools that are just you don't really even, not to my knowledge, you don't. I know you don't walk away with like a degree. I think you can get some kind of certificate, really, but they're all online schools. You can take courses that teach you lighting, that teach you posing. They're very focused on the game and film art world. So I would encourage them to look into those. There's one called Schoolism. There's another one called Gnomon. Um, those are all online, all stuff that you can work through at your own pace and learn this stuff at your own pace. I would encourage you to get a portfolio together and that, find, I think the first thing you need to do is find reference for what you want to do and the direction you want to go in. Um, just because there's like the gamut between like like Pixar has concept artists working for them.
Hmm.
And my harpy from Shazam is never going to show up in a Pixar movie.
No.
It's there's
Probably not.
there's the style, the like um the just yeah, I guess the style is probably just the best word to boil it down to. The style of the work that you want to go into, it's very different. The more animation, like true animation stuff is very different. Do you want to work on film? Do you want to work on games? I think a lot of artists are kind of like paralyzed by the options of the directions they want to go in, and they know they want to do like characters or they know they want to do environments, but they haven't explored enough to really know like kind of what direction to go with that. And so I think kind of like the first step I would recommend is just like find artists that really sing to you and like find work that you are like, I love this, I want to make this, and start, whether it's on these online schools or, even YouTube University is like a whole thing now, there's a lot of artists that dedicate their time to doing live streams and showing their process. And I think there's a lot to gain there. But I think getting together a portfolio of images that look like, you know, the direction you want to go into and that look like the work that the people in the direction that you want to go to are producing. Um, and making sure that you're really I think it's better to have like a portfolio of like five just solid kick-ass images than it is to have 30 images that are like okay, they're maybe not up to the spec of these other ones because any art director, those guys are so busy. They're gonna flip through the first five images anyways. They're not gonna scroll down all your stuff. So getting together a really tight, short and sweet portfolio. Um, and then I guess, and the only reason I recommend this is because it worked for me and it's not necessarily something that I was pursuing. It kind of just naturally and organically developed. But um, because it happened to me, I see the value in it. I would encourage you to find a mentor. I would encourage you to go, reach out to artists, reach out to, I mean, there are art mentor programs that you can find where you can like sign up to work with a mentor. Um, it's usually something you have to like pay to do, but the one-on-one work that you'll get and experience you'll get with them is like invaluable. I think getting really targeted help like that is important. And yeah, just really do whatever you can to make connections and reach out. Don't be afraid of pinging artists that you really like and just saying like, I think you're great. I love what you do. I want to do what you do. Like, do you have any tips? anything you can do to kind of just build connective tissue between you and just anybody who is in the direction that you want to go with. Um, like I think it's really good to just be social and engaging with that. I don't know any artist who hasn't gotten here without some form of like mentoring or teaching or like guidance from someone. And you're never going to reach out to an artist and be like, I love you. I love your work. Can I send you something? Like, can you just critique this for 2 seconds? Tell me if this looks anything here I can improve on. I don't know any artist who's gonna be like, no, like I hate you, go away. Like everyone's gonna be nice. We all know what it took to get here, and like, they may not get back to you in 5 minutes, but like I yeah, I don't know. I think it's really worth shooting that shot and just trying to build as much of your network as you can as early as you can, even if it's just from um a like very clearly transparent like student like who is looking to learn position.
Incredible.
Scott,
Miss-
you are a legend. Like, absolutely. We're so thankful that you came on tonight. We're so thankful that you sat and chatted to us. Like, just purely inspirational. From the first, like I said, just from the CF conversation we had right at the beginning, I was just going, I'm so glad you are still here. I'm
Yep.
so glad that you not well, like you kicked its ass slightly. You know what I mean? Like that, and that med just came right at the right time. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm sorry if there was any oversharing there,
Ah,
but it's
No
you're
such
all
thing.
good. You're all good. If there is anything you do want removed, just let us know. All right.
no,
Oh,
I'm fine. I just, yeah, no, it's like it's kind of hard to like tell my whole story from the career standpoint without kind of like,
bringing it
you know,
up.
Yeah.
bringing up the CF stuff. And I think to some degree, like I like talking about the CF because I think awareness is great, and anybody that
100%.
hears that, that's not going to hurt anything. And I'm happy to share what I can, and yeah, it's just hard to just tell my story without the like the guidelines of CF that were kind of, they had the steering wheel for a while, and
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
it's like, but it's yeah.
Because the question I normally end on, I feel I already know the answer
Yeah.
because of everything you've been through. What I normally ask at the end is, when you first started this journey, did you ever think this is where your life would be today? But of course, you never thought you'd still be here now, which is insane. Like, it's wild to think about. And now you've got the main villain in a DC movie, and you got to work on Wicked and, Percy Jackson, and you've got there. I'm sure there's going to be plenty coming as well. You're getting to like tick all those boxes that you didn't think that you probably would get to tick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm 34, so I'm 4 years past where I guess I ever thought I was going to be.
Yeah, love
Um
it.
and I'm showing no signs of slowing down health-wise
Good.
for now, knock on wood. But but yeah, my goals are just to keep going. I definitely never thought I'd be here. Um but it's I don't know, it's weird. It's weird. There's kind of like this like the medication came and that was great and stuff, but there's also kind of this like element of like, oh shit, like I got a plan for the rest of my life now, like I have like
Yeah.
oh like retirement is like a thing, and like I need to plan for my future, and oh like marriage is like a possibility. Like there's like all these things that's just like, damn, life is fucking scary when you find out it's gotta happen now, and it's like, and like so there's like that, and I think like I never thought I'd be in this position where I'm just like holy cow, like life and like the
Yeah.
possibilities. It's like the
Yeah.
exact opposite of where I was when I was like going 90 miles an hour towards a brick wall. It was like, yeah, so never thought I'd be here for sure.
Well, it's wonderful that you are. Like, and I'm so grateful we got to spend this time with you. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your story, ultimately.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm super, super stoked that you guys reached out. And yeah, no, it's been great.
Absolutely amazing. Scott, before we let you get out of here, though, plug social medias, websites. Where can people find you out in the world?
Yeah, so I mean my website is just scottgessler.art. My Instagram is Scott_Gessler. Um, and then if you go to ArtStation and just search my name, my portfolio is also there. Um, that's really kind of it. One of my New Year's resolutions is to be a little better about being active and posting on social medias, but that's all I have for now to
You'll be
plug
dancing
out
on
there.
TikTok before we know it. It's fine.
Yeah. No, we'll make it happen.
Ultimately, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved this. Been so much fun, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Scott. It means the world.
You got it.
Enjoy your day. Take it easy.
Same
See
to
you later, my
you.
friend.
Take care.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.